And welcome to Wise Guys. These guys know sports on this Tuesday, June the 3rd, 2025. In the house with your boy Trey Larkins on the Wise Guys Sports Show. Everybody going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Here live discussing the NBA Finals preview. That matchup will take place Thursday between the Indiana Pacers and the OKC Thunder. I'm going to talk about that here in a bit. Also, Shedeur Sanders and whether or not I believe that Shedeur Sanders should be the Week 1 starter in Cleveland for the Browns. So a few things I'm going to discuss tonight and get into. Don't forget, each and every Monday, the Wise Guys sports host, yours truly, Trey Larkins, and Mr. Melvin Levitt himself will be at Park Place. It's the Not Boxed In podcast, the We Not Boxed In podcast. Me and Melvin Levitt discussing the latest in sports news, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. each and every Monday at Park Place. Also on Impact Recruiting Services with my boy Dante, also behind the scenes. And his 7vs7 showcase is Saturday and Sunday at West High. So definitely tune into that. But we begin tonight's show in the NBA in New York as the New York Knicks have fired head coach Tom Thibodeau after 5 seasons. Tom Thibodeau had coached the Knicks 5 years in New York, and he led the Knicks to the playoffs in 4 out of his 5 seasons. So, for me, my immediate reaction to the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau was this was a dumb move by the New York Knicks. And the reason why this was a dumb move by the New York Knicks are for multiple reasons. Number one, when you look at Tom Thibodeau in his 5 seasons as head coach of the New York Knicks, his record is 400-226 in the regular season, which means he's won 57% of his games in the regular season. And 4 out of his 5 seasons as the Knicks head coach, Tibbs led the Knicks to the playoffs. He led the Knicks to back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time since 1990. He led them to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years, and Thibodeau had 24 playoff wins. Amongst 13 other coaches for the Knicks, they only had 7 playoff wins. So, for me, I feel like this was a dumb move by the Knicks because, in my eyes, Tom Thibodeau did the most he possibly could as their head coach as they were currently constructed with their roster that had limitations. And to me, Tibbs, considering the fact that the Knicks overachieved, because I believe the Knicks overachieved, let's be real. Coming into the NBA playoffs, most people believe that the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers were better than the New York Knicks. And for the Knicks to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and be 2 wins away from reaching an NBA Finals, to me, that means the Knicks overachieved as a basketball team. I never felt like the Knicks were true championship contenders. I like their dynamic duo with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, but even those players being the Knicks' 2 best players, I had questions about them. I don't know if you can win a championship with Jalen Brunson as your true number 1 option. I have questions about Karl-Anthony Towns as to whether or not he can be a reliable second option on a championship contender. I will give Cat credit from this standpoint. I thought Cat played better in this year's postseason compared to what he's done in years past. But I have questions about Brunson and Cat as your dynamic duo as to whether or not you can win an NBA championship with Brunson and Cat as your 1-2 punch. And I hear people talk about, oh, Tom Thibodeau plays his starters extended minutes. He doesn't really utilize his bench. What bench are we talking about? I'm looking at the Knicks bench, right? Because prior to the Eastern Conference Finals, they started Hart instead of Mitchell Robinson. And Tibbs made a change going into Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and he started Mitchell Robinson instead of starting Josh Hart. And so this was the Knicks bench after the Eastern Conference Finals. Josh Hart, Landry Shamet, DeJuan Wright, Miles McBride. That was what Tom Thibodeau had to work with from a bench standpoint. So I keep hearing people talk about he doesn't utilize his bench. What bench? What bench? The Knicks, they don't have a bench like the Pacers with Obi Toppin and Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell coming off the bench. They don't have a bench like the Thunder have with Wallace and Alex Caruso and Isaiah Joe coming off the bench. They don't have a reliable bench. So that's why I understood why Tibbs played his starters extended minutes. I understood it. And so for me, considering the fact that Tibbs led the Knicks to the playoffs and 4 out of his 5 seasons as head coach, he led them to 2 50-win seasons back-to-back, the first time that it's been done since the 1990s. He led them to an Eastern Conference Finals appearance for the first time in 25 years. And he has 24 playoff wins compared to other Knicks head coaches who only have 7 playoff wins. That, to me, feels like Tom Thibodeau got screwed by the New York Knicks. He got screwed. Leon Rose, president of basketball operations for the Knicks, we need some answers. We need some answers because, to me, Tibbs did all he possibly could with what he had at his disposal as the Knicks head coach. And the only reason I could see the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau is for 2 reasons. One, if they have an inside source and as to whether or not maybe they could possibly get Giannis, and maybe Giannis doesn't want Tibbs as his head coach. In that case, I would understand the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau. Because if you can get your hands on Giannis, Giannis can choose whichever coach he chooses as your superstar. So I would understand the Knicks firing Tibbs if they were going to sign Giannis in free agency. Another reason why I would understand the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau would be if a Eric Spoelstra or a elite head coach that's proven out there, like Eric Spoelstra, or a good in the NBA head coach that's proven and has won games throughout their career, and that has not happened. So unless there's an Eric Spoelstra or a Ty Lue out there, I don't understand why the Knicks would fire Tom Thibodeau. If a Ty Lue is available or an Eric Spoelstra is available, I could see why the Knicks would fire Tibbs, because Ty Lue and Eric Spoelstra are both better head coaches than Tom Thibodeau. But those are the only 2 reasons that I could think of as to why the Knicks would fire Tom Thibodeau, because they could possibly get their hands on Giannis, and Giannis would want a coach of his choice, or Ty Lue or Eric Spoelstra is out there who could replace Tibbs as a Knicks head coach. Now, here's the thing. Moving forward, there are 2 names I've been hearing that could possibly replace Tibbs in New York. Jay Wright. Now, Jay Wright coached Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart at Villanova. So maybe they want to bring in Jay Wright because Jay Wright has a relationship with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. That's a possible option for their head coaching vacancy. Or maybe even Michael Malone. Now, Michael Malone won an NBA championship for the Denver Nuggets as their head coach. But honestly, and I love Michael Malone, I honestly don't really feel like Michael Malone, I didn't feel like he deserved to lose his job at Denver. But I don't really believe that Michael Malone is a significantly better coach than Tom Thibodeau is. Michael Malone just had the luxury of coaching Jokic, who's the best player in the NBA. And Michael Malone is a quality NBA head coach. Do not get me wrong. He deserves a head coaching opportunity. But I don't really believe that Michael Malone is a better coach than Tom Thibodeau. And so for me, I believe Tom Thibodeau got screwed by the Knicks. And I just don't know where the Knicks go from here. Unless you can try to lure Ty Lue from Los Angeles or lure Eric Spoelstra from Miami or possibly get Giannis to New York. In that case, he would obviously get the coach of his choice. Those are the only reasons why I could see the Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau. So I definitely believe Tibbs got screwed in this situation. Everybody go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. I'll be right back discussing the NBA Finals. And welcome back to Wise Guys. These guys know sports. Everybody remember to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys at Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Let's get back to some NBA and let's talk about the NBA Finals on ABC Thursday night. It's game one between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder are favored by 9.5 points. It's an 8:30 p.m. tip-off on ABC. The over-under for this matchup in game one is 230.5. So when I look at this matchup between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, these two teams are different from an expectation standpoint. Looking at the Indiana Pacers, they finished the season 50-32. They were fourth in the Eastern Conference. But coming into the NBA playoffs, nobody predicted that the Pacers would be in the NBA Finals. Most people's predictions were either the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were both the 1 and 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference, respectively. And so the Pacers, surprisingly, they went on a nice playoff run, getting to the NBA Finals in round 1. They beat Giannis and the Bucks 4-1. In round 2, they upset the Cleveland Cavaliers 4-1. And in the Eastern Conference Finals, they beat the Knicks 4-2. And the Pacers, even though last year they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, nobody really had real championship expectations for the Indiana Pacers coming into this season. I believe they had 50-1 odds to win an NBA championship coming into the season. And so nobody really expected the Pacers to be in the position that they are currently in. And the way that they play, they have a good point guard in Tyrese Halliburton. They have a reliable second option who's an NBA champion in Pascal Siakam, who won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And they have a ton of players who can score the basketball at a very, very elite level. I look at Tyrese Halliburton. I look at Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith. They all can put the basketball in the rim and score at a very, very elite level. For the postseason, the Indiana Pacers, they have the best field goal percentage in the postseason. They are shooting 50% from the floor in the playoffs. And so they go 8-9 deep. Rick Carlisle is their head coach. But off the bench, they bring in TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin and Benedict Mathurin. Thomas Bryant also gets extended minutes off the bench for the Indiana Pacers. And so they go 8-9 deep. They are the complete opposite of the New York Knicks, because in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Knicks, they usually only play their starters, and they play their starters extended minutes. The Pacers are the complete opposite, which is a part of the reason why I picked the Pacers to beat the Knicks in the conference finals. But the way that the Pacers play and the pace that they play at, that's the biggest reason why they are in the NBA Finals. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Pacers, they had advantages over the Knicks and the following categories: bench points, fast break points, and also assists. Now, the reason why they have such a huge advantage from an assist standpoint is because of Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton has been balling in the postseason this year. And coming into the postseason, we heard about how there were players who voted Tyrese Halliburton as the most overrated star in the NBA. Whoever the hell voted Tyrese Halliburton as the most overrated star, they need to be exposed. They need to be exposed, because that's the thing, and I say it all the time, I really hate this in sports, in whatever particular sport we're talking about, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, boxing, tennis, soccer. I hate when we hear quotes from players or a coach or a person within a certain organization. I hate when it's an anonymous quote. Put your name on it. Put your name on it. Put an address to your quote. And so, again, I believe that whoever said that Halliburton is overrated should be exposed. And Tyrese Halliburton has used that as fuel, and that has motivated him and the Indiana Pacers to be in this position. And Tyrese Halliburton is a top 5 point guard in the NBA. Make no mistake about it. The Indiana Pacers, as much depth as they have, as good of a head coach as Rick Carlisle is, they would not be in the NBA Finals if it were not for Tyrese Halliburton. And I thought Tyrese Halliburton was going to win NBA Finals MVP. I'm sorry, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, rather. I thought he was going to win Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and we saw the video out there how Halliburton stepped up because he thought he was going to win Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and instead it went to Pascal Siakam. But Halliburton is the biggest reason why the Pacers are in this position. And he is the true quarterback of the Pacers offense. Like, I compare it to the NFL when I think about what Patrick Mahomes is to the Kansas City Chiefs, what Josh Allen is to the Buffalo Bills, what Joe Burrow is to the Cincinnati Bengals. That is exactly what Tyrese Halliburton is to the Indiana Pacers from an offensive standpoint. Now, the Pacers as a team, they don't play much defense, but for the most part, from an offensive standpoint, they are the best offensive team in the NBA. And the Pacers and the Thunder both have the best record since the beginning of the year. Since January 1st, the Pacers are 46-18, which means they've won 72% of their games. That's ranked second in the NBA. And I look at their head coach and Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle is a proven NBA head coach. In his career for the Pacers as their head coach, he's 338 in 318, which means he's won 52% of his games. While he was the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas, he was 555 and 478, which means he's won 54% of his games. But he won an NBA championship in 2011. That was the Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Terry, and Jason Kidd Mavericks, who beat LeBron, D. Wade, and Bosh in the finals. And he won NBA Coach of the Year in 2002. So Rick Carlisle is a proven NBA head coach. And so the Pacers, they are the real deal. Now, let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder, on the other hand, they had complete opposite expectations of the Indiana Pacers coming into the season. The OKC Thunder, for the season, they were 68-14 in the regular season. They were first in the Western Conference, first overall in the NBA. And remember, in previous years, specifically last year, the Thunder, they came up short in the conference semifinals. They lost 4-1 to Luka and Kyrie. And so Thunder fans were disappointed, and there were questions about this Thunder team and at what point are they going to get over the hump? Because we've seen it in years prior with the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. At what point are you going to get over the hump? And the OKC Thunder had questions coming into the season, and they answered the call in a major, major way. 68-14, first in the Western Conference, first in the NBA. SGA won NBA MVP, averaging 33 points per game for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and emerged as a top 5 player in the NBA. I mean, SGA was balling this year, and whether or not you like or are entertained about SGA's play style, his skills are undeniable. SGA, in this postseason, he's had 147 free throw attempts. And I'll be real, I am one of those people sometimes that complain that SGA gets to the free throw line so much, because I'm one of those people that also believe officials should allow players to be more physical in the playoffs and allow players from a defensive standpoint to ramp up their intensity and try to make it tough on these superstars. But it's also a skill that SGA has displayed the ability to draw fouls and get to the free throw line even when he's struggling in games. So SGA is a bona fide superstar. He won NBA MVP, averaging 33 points per game. And this Thunder team, they have been a complete team all season long. And they have a big trio with SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. And also, just like the Pacers, the Thunder have had the best record in the NBA since January 1st as well. They are 53-13, which means they've won 80% of their games. That's ranked first in the NBA. So I love the fact that we have a collision course with the two teams that have had the best records since January 1st. Thunder ranked first, Pacers ranked second. But the Thunder, their trio of SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, they are big time. And they have grown right before our eyes. Jalen Williams, he's averaging, I believe, 21 points per game in the postseason. Chet Holmgren, he's averaging 16 points per game in the postseason. And honestly, coming into the playoffs, one of my biggest questions for OKC was, will Jalen Williams elevate his game and become that reliable second option for SGA in this Thunder basketball team? And Jalen Williams has answered the call in a big, big way. And I've been very impressed with Jalen Williams in this postseason run. Last year, Jalen Williams struggled in the playoffs for the OKC Thunder. And he was a part of the reason why OKC flamed out in the conference semifinals against the Dallas Mavericks. But Jalen Williams has played well in the playoffs, and he's been a major, major part in the Thunder being in the NBA Finals. So I got to give him credit. This Thunder team, from a defensive standpoint, they are arguably the best defensive team we've seen in the last 20 years. And that's what I'm so excited about in the NBA Finals. It's strength on strength. The Pacers, they have the best field goal percentage from a shooting standpoint in the NBA playoffs. They are shooting 50% from the floor. The Thunder, they are holding opponents to only 43% shooting from the floor in the NBA playoffs. That's the best in the NBA. So the Pacers offense going up against the Thunder defense is the key matchup to watch in the NBA Finals. So the Thunder, they do a tremendous job because they have multiple bodies that they can throw in the direction of the opposing team star. In the Western Conference Finals, Anthony Edwards was frustrated all series long because the Thunder have so many defenders that they send in your direction. Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, who made the all-defensive team, Wallace, Lou Dort, who's built like a linebacker. And once you get past their guards and forwards, you got to deal with Hartenstein and Holmgren at the rim. And so the Thunder, they play elite defense. I haven't seen a team play this type of elite defense since the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, when they had Billups, Rip Hamilton, and Tayshaun Prince, which they're both Wallace brothers, that team was a great team from a defensive standpoint. But the Thunder are just as good as those Pistons were. Now, when I look at the Thunder, their head coach is Mark Daigneault. Mark Daigneault, he's 211 and 189, which means he's won 53% of his games as Thunder head coach. He won NBA Coach of the Year in 2024. And I like Daigneault. I'm not ready to say that he's an elite NBA head coach, and he's nowhere near as proven as Rick Carlisle is, but I like Daigneault. I really like Daigneault. We're going to see if he can have the advantage from a coaching standpoint in the NBA Finals, because he's going up against an elite coach in Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle is an NBA champion, and he's a proven NBA head coach. And that's somewhere Mark Daigneault is aiming and striving to get to, where Carlisle already is. But overall, when I look at this matchup between the Pacers and the Thunder, to me, it's going to come down to whether or not the Pacers can get timely stops. Because we know the Thunder are great offensively and defensively. But the Pacers, they are a great offensive basketball team, but from a defensive standpoint, they can be had. And you can score points against this Indiana Pacers team overall. But it's strength on strength in these NBA Finals. I feel like the Pacers are overwhelming underdogs, and it's going to take a lot for the Pacers to pull off the upset, and they're going to have to try and steal one of these first 2 games in OKC. But the thing about OKC is, I want to say this as well, because I've been very, very clear about this. When you take into consideration OKC's regular season record, they were 68-14. In the postseason so far, they are 12-4. They lost 3 against the Denver Nuggets in the conference semifinals, and they lost 1 against the Wolves in the conference finals. And I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. No matter the outcome of the NBA Finals, this OKC team is not an all-time top NBA team. I've been seeing people on Twitter, on Facebook, talk about how if the Thunder win the NBA championship, they should be considered a top team in NBA history. And I 100% disagree. I 100% disagree. Yes, the Thunder have had a tremendous season. They've had a tremendous season. They are 80-18 on the season. They have an NBA MVP in SGA who averaged 33 points per game. SGA averaged 29 points per game in the playoffs. They have a tremendous trio that consists of SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. And I like Mark Daigneault as their head coach. And from a defensive standpoint, they got so many bodies that they can throw in your direction with Luke Dort, Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, and even as real protectors with Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. But to say that this Thunder team, if they win an NBA championship, will be considered an all-time great team is absolutely ridiculous. Because let me ask y'all a question. Before I get my predictions on the NBA Finals, let me ask y'all a question. Are this version of the OKC Thunder, would they beat Magic and Kareem's Lakers? Would they beat Jordan's Bulls in the 90s? Would they beat Kobe and Shaq's Lakers in the early 2000s? Would they beat Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili's Spurs? Would they beat LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh when they were a big 3 in Miami? Would they beat the Golden State Warriors? Forget about the Warriors with Kevin Durant. Would they beat the Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson as their 1-2 punch on that Warriors team that beat the Cavaliers in 2015? We know they wouldn't have a chance against the Warriors with Kevin Durant. Hell, I don't even believe that this version of OKC is better than the Boston Celtics from last year. I'm going to say it again. I don't know if this OKC team is better than the Boston Celtics were last year. Because Jaylen Brown is better than Jalen Williams is. And the Celtics from last year, they had Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis. They were better than this Thunder team. Now, the Thunder have had a better season compared to what the Celtics did last year. But I'm just not ready to crown this version of the Thunder as an all-time great team if they win an NBA championship. I'm not quite there yet. And not only am I not there yet as far as calling them a great all-time team, I've been hearing people talk about how this Thunder team is better than the Thunder team when they had KD, Russ, and Harden. And that's crazy as well. That team with KD, Russ, and Harden, they made the NBA Finals. Now, they lost, but they lost to LeBron, who's arguably the greatest player in NBA history, depending on who you ask. So it's no shame in losing to a LeBron James. And that's who KD, Russ, and Harden, lost to in the NBA Finals. So, for me, just because the Thunder win an NBA championship, that does not make them necessarily better than KD, Russ, and Harden's Thunder. They may be better as a team, but they're not better as individual players. KD, Russ, and Harden are better than SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. But I just want to get that out there and get that out the way. With all that being said, this is going to be a very entertaining series. The Thunder are overwhelming favorites over the Pacers. It's strength on strength. And as elite as the Pacers offense is, I believe they will struggle in late game situations against this elite Thunder defense. And so I'm rolling with the Thunder in 6 over the Pacers. So I got Thunder in 6 over the Pacers, and I have SGA winning NBA Finals MVP. But I do believe it's going to be a very entertaining series. And in order for the Pacers to extend this series and have a chance to upset the Thunder, the Pacers have to steal one of these first 2 games in Oklahoma City. Game 1 is Sunday. I'm sorry, game 1 is Thursday, and game 2 is Sunday in Oklahoma City. So the Pacers got to steal one of these first 2 in OKC. And we'll see if they can get it done. But I got Thunder in 6 over the Pacers. Everybody go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at Wise Guys _ They talk on Facebook, Wise Guys. I'll be right back. And welcome back to Wise Guys. These guys know sports. Everybody remember go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at Wise Guys _ H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Let's transition to some NFL. And let's go to Cleveland and let's talk about Shedeur Sanders, as there was an NFL writer that had a quote on Shedeur at OTAs in Cleveland, watching Shedeur. This NFL writer says, quote, Shedeur has been impressive. And this was Shedeur Sanders' quote, talking about his experience so far being on the Browns. This is Shedeur. He says, quote, I just have to lock in, stay focused on what's present. And the quarterbacks on the Browns roster is Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, ahead of Shedeur Sanders right now. And the Cleveland Browns drafted Shedeur Sanders with their 5th overall pick. He was a 144th overall pick. So, before I get into whether or not I believe Shedeur is going to be the week 1 starter for the Cleveland Browns, it's something that I've been wanting to talk about since the NFL draft, and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about it much. I did go live about it during the NFL draft, but now with the cameras rolling, it's something that's been on my mind when it comes to Shedeur Sanders and him being drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Let's be real. The NFL blackballed Shedeur Sanders. Whether or not they want to admit it or not, the NFL colluded together to blackball Shedeur Sanders. And I'm looking and thinking back pre-NFL draft, and I'm listening to NFL draft experts like Mel Kiper, Todd McShay. These draft experts, none of them had Shedeur Sanders anything less than the 3rd best quarterback on the draft board. None of them. The only quarterback that I heard that was a bona fide better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders was Cam Ward. Cam Ward played at the University of Miami, and he was the 1st overall pick by the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward was the only quarterback who was considered to be better than Shedeur Sanders. And so I'm watching the draft, as we all are watching the NFL draft, and I'm watching Jackson Dart, Tyler Show, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel, all be drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, don't ever tell me it's about football. Don't tell me it's about your skill set or your talent. Because if it's about your skill set or your talent, and if it's about football, and we are evaluating these quarterbacks who are draft prospects in the NFL draft, there is no way in hell you could tell me or convince me that Shedeur Sanders is the 5th best quarterback off the board in the NFL draft. Jackson Dart, Tyler Show, Jalen Milroe. Hell, I used to watch Alabama games, and I used to think sometimes to myself, Jalen Milroe might have to consider switching positions. Jalen Milroe has never been better than Shedeur Sanders. Jackson Dart has never been better than Shedeur Sanders. Tyler Show has never been better than Shedeur Sanders. And Dylan Gabriel, damn sure, has never been better than Shedeur Sanders. So the NFL blackballed Shedeur Sanders, but the reason why the NFL blackballed Shedeur Sanders is because of Deion Sanders. The only way for the NFL to get back at Deion is through Shedeur. Deion is an established head coach at the collegiate level. He was one of the greatest athletes in sports history. Forget about just the NFL. He was one of the greatest athletes in sports history, and people didn't like Deion's personality. They didn't like his big personality and his aura. And I think that's the reason why they blackballed Shedeur Sanders, because they don't like Shedeur Sanders' big personality and his aura and his confidence. But I've always said and wondered why those same people didn't have an issue with Baker Mayfield. When Baker Mayfield was at the University of Oklahoma and playing in the NFL as a quarterback, Baker Mayfield also had a big personality and also was extremely demonstrative. And when he made a play, he celebrated in a big, big way. And so folks celebrated Baker Mayfield, and they called it passion. Also, Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel was also celebrated for his passion for the game as a quarterback. And Johnny Manziel was on crack. He was on crack. And folks celebrated Johnny Manziel the same way that they celebrated Baker Mayfield. But we don't celebrate Shedeur Sanders in that same way. I found that very odd. So for me, Shedeur Sanders falling to the 5th round and there being 143 players drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm tired of these NFL GMs and these owners trying to convince me that it's about your talent or it's about your skill set. No, it's about whether or not they like you when they bring you into these meetings. It's been all about that. It's about whether or not they like you and whether or not they can relate to you. It's not about how good you are as a player. So don't sell me on the idea that, oh, it's about your talent or it's about your skill set. No, it's not. Because if it was about that, Shedeur Sanders would have been drafted ahead of Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shout, Dylan Gabriel for sure. Now, Jackson Dart, he's nice, but I still would take Shedeur over Jackson Dart. And I'm looking at Shedeur Sanders, right? At the University of Colorado, in 2023, he had 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 3,230 passing yards, completing 69% of his passes. He follows that up in 2024. He had 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, over 4,000 yards passing, completing 74% of his passes. In 2024, that was a single season passing yards record and completion percentage record at Colorado. And so in his 2 seasons at Colorado, 64 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 7,364 percent of his passes. And to me, Shedeur Sanders proved that he should be at least a top 3 quarterback drafted in the NFL draft. And this is the thing with Shedeur. Shedeur doesn't have the mobility like a Cam Moore has or like a Cam Newton had at his Auburn days. But Shedeur Sanders and his precision in the pocket is something that we should commend him for and give him credit for. Shedeur Sanders doesn't have great athletic ability. Now, I think his athletic ability is underrated, but he's not a great mobile quarterback. But I believe that Shedeur Sanders is a great pocket passer, and that's your number 1 job at the quarterback position in the NFL. I don't give a damn how great of a mobile quarterback you are. Your job as a quarterback, the number 1 responsibility is for you to throw the football down the field. And I believe Shedeur Sanders is a great pocket passer. And I believe he can develop into being an elite pocket passer in the NFL. And honestly, it is no coincidence that he had a lot of conversations and he really mirrors Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be as great as Tom Brady was, but he's great in the pocket as a passer. And so when I look at Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, right, as crazy as it was that Shedeur fell to the 5th round, I honestly believe that it was a blessing in disguise for Shedeur, because he is going to Cleveland and to a team that has uncertainty at the quarterback position. There is no bona fide starter in Cleveland. Now, if Shedeur, obviously, if he went to the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts, the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, Shedeur Sanders would not be given an opportunity to start for the Browns or any team all season long. He wouldn't be given an opportunity. But with the Browns, he has a chance to be their starter at some point in the season. Deshaun Watson injured his Achilles. He's probably not even going to be on the team the entire season. Joe Flacco is washed. I love Joe Flacco. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's one of the most clutch quarterbacks in NFL history. But Joe Flacco's best days are behind him. Kenny Pickett, he hasn't proven anything in the NFL. And Shedeur Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel. So to me, honestly, the only real competition that Shedeur has in Cleveland is Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco is old. He's old. So I'm going to say it now. I'm going to put this on record right now and get this out of the way. Shedeur Sanders is already better than Kenny Pickett. He was better than Dylan Gabriel in college, and he will have a better career than Dylan Gabriel will in the NFL. So, to me, the only real competition for Shedeur is Joe Flacco. That's the only real competition for Shedeur. It's Joe Flacco. Honestly, I believe Kenny Pickett and Deshaun Watson will be off the roster at some point in the season. I believe Dylan Gabriel will be on the practice squad, and Shedeur will back up Joe Flacco until the Browns find themselves not going to the playoffs and they have to insert Shedeur Sanders in as their quarterback to see what they've got in him. So, do I believe Shedeur Sanders will be the week one starter for the Browns? Probably not. But I do believe Shedeur Sanders will get his opportunity at some point during the regular season, and he can show the Browns what he's made of. And make no mistake about it. Because Shedeur fell to the 5th round and was the 144th overall pick, trust me when I tell y'all, Shedeur is using that as motivation and as fuel to make him a better quarterback overall. Deion and Shedeur, they working. They are working. And I heard earlier today, Deion came out and said it was crazy how there were people that were saying that Shedeur was wearing headphones in meetings with these teams during the draft process. Deion already came out and said that those were false narratives around Shedeur. Shedeur is one of the most professional college prospects we've seen. So that was crazy. But yes, I believe at some point during the season, Shedeur will get his opportunity to start for the Cleveland Browns. It may not be week 1, but it may be week 6 or 8. And I hope it's not in the beginning of the season because the Browns do play the Packers. All y'all know I'm a Packers fan. And I want Shedeur to be successful in the NFL. So I hope Shedeur doesn't start early in the season, but if he does get his opportunity, good for him. But considering the Browns don't really have a bona fide starter at the quarterback position, Shedeur Sanders definitely will have an opportunity to start at some point this season. And I'm excited for him because I think he's going to take advantage of it and prove all the doubters wrong. Everybody go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. We should follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Don't forget, each and every Monday, the We Not Boxed In podcast with myself and Cincinnati Bearcats legend Melvin Levitt discussing all the latest in sports news. And my boy Dante with On Impact Recruiting Services behind the scenes. And don't forget, Friday, we got the Combine at Westside. And On Impact will be hosting the 7vs7 showcase Saturday and Sunday at Westside. On Impact, my boy Dante will be hosting the 7vs7 showcase at Westside. So contact Dante for all information regarding that. I'm Trey Larkin signing off with Wise Guys Sports on this Tuesday, June the 3rd. Enjoy the NBA Finals. I'll be back on discussing the NBA Finals after either the Pacers or the Thunder win their first NBA championship for their particular cities. Everyone enjoy y'all week. Peace.